Hey guys, into the end here. It is the beginning of a new month. We're on October 2nd, so 2 days since the ladder has reset. Um, at the beginning of every month, I tend to spend a couple of weeks just messing around with fun decks. And today I'm going to work on a Shepherd's Horn deck that was given to me or originally suggested by my friend here, Shane Lee. And this is his original deck. He's a new player. He's only been playing for a few weeks, I think, so he doesn't have access to all the legendaries. But um, the core of the deck really is just Shepherd's Horn with a bunch of Overwhelm units, and also topping it up with Divining Rod to give you the late game push and card advantage to overwhelm your opponent. Sorry, overwhelm your opponent. That was unintended. And some of the cards that he has here are really good. Like Arcana Monitor is a very good card for this style of a deck. But I tried it out a few times, and as you may expect, these kind of slightly subpar rares are not quite good enough in ranked. So I made my own version of it, uh, basically upgrading the rares and uncommons to legendaries in the same color. And the deck has been performing pretty good, pretty well. Grammar. Who needs it? So I'll go through the card choices really briefly. Uh, Once again, this is a Shepherd's Horn and Divining Rod deck, so we're very focused onto overwhelm units. I choose to run Initiates of the Sands because in this deck I have Zenon Obelisks and Arcanum Monitors to pump my units, so I would like to play as many units as I can. And Initiates of the Sands both accelerates and is possibly a sizable threat later on in the game, so it's going to be relevant throughout the game. Power Knight, of course, has Overwhelm, and it can be ultimated, so it is relevant in all stages of the game. This deck gets to 6 mana pretty quickly, so you can ultimate this thing pretty early. And of course, the synergies with the Shepherd's Horn and the Divining Rod here. I've chosen not to play with the Cult Aspirant because the Cult Aspirant is actually not good on its own unless the Shepherd's Horn is in play, and because it's the only way I can gain life with this deck. And I think that kind of heavy dependency on another card, and the fact that I have to play the Shepherd's Horn first, or having played the Horn and then draw more units to trigger the life gain, makes the Cult Aspirant very inconsistent and very conditional. So I've chosen not to play with it. Torch is self-explanatory. Wisp is just some ways to get some card advantage. Besides warping things and the Divining Rod, I don't have any other ways to get card advantage with this deck. So 2 Wisp is not bad. It's also a decent evasive threat once you can pump it with, because I have 8 sort of +1/+1 Lord effects, right? In Magic we call it Lord effects. And then Amber Acolyte is just to basically more sources of power, because this deck is quite power hungry with a lot of 8 6-drops here and a lot of 5-drops. As you can see from this really weird curve of the deck, it's like 1, no 2s, 3, no 4s. This is one of the weirdest curves I've ever seen in a deck. And I kind of got stuck in this curve because there really aren't that many good Overwhelm cards. So if you want to fill the curve with 4-drop Overwhelm cards, there's like a 3/4 that dinosaur. So that's, I mean, you're just not gonna play. You would rather have a weird curve than play with really bad cards, right? So, Shepherd Horn is sort of the centerpiece of the deck, along with Divining Rod. The life gain, the incidental life gain is actually not irrelevant. There are many games against mid-range and aggressive decks that if you land a turn 3 Shepherd's Horn or even turn 2 Shepherd's Horn with Initiates, they can't race you. I've had a lot of games against even both Skycrag and Stonecar where my opponent's hitting me for 6 to 8 to 9 damage a turn with a bunch of impending dooms and whatnot, and I just didn't care because I was gaining just as much life every turn. So the life gain is pretty relevant. Zenon Obelisk, just to make all the small early game bodies not so bad, and it makes the late game cards better. Arcanum Warrior, it's really just another Overwhelm unit and another Obelisk effect, which is quite good, another Lord effect, which is quite good. The obliterate, the keyword on obliterate works with Shepherd's Horn, so it does reduce the casting cost, and you do gain 3 life, which is pretty cool. I play 4 copies of Shatterglass Mage, mostly because this is actually the best unit in my deck to put the Divining Rod onto. When you put the Divining Rod on the Mage, it hits pretty much every important unit in my deck, even Heart of the Vault because of the warp. And also warping the Shatterglass Mage in from the top of your deck, gaining 3 life, costing anywhere from 4 to 3/2 mana is a lot of value. And there is a lot of very good relics to hit, and attachments to hit right now. You can hit the random permafrost. There's a lot of decks running around with a lot of relics and relic weapons, so this is very good right now. 4 copies of Divining Rod. This is one of the few ways we get a card advantage. So running full 4 copies is good. Usually you don't hit too many cards with this. I think on average is like 1 or 2 cards. Very rare to hit more than 1 or 2, and sometimes and actually decent amount of time I say you would fail to hit and you get nothing. So you just get the 6 mana +3/+3. Heart of the Vault is the best Praxis top end. I've chosen not to play with a Mystic Ascendants and Predatory Cranosaurs because they don't have the right keywords. And this deck is already pretty starved for room. I can't find anything to cut to put those cards in. And of course the Amber Monument is also a unit with Overwhelm, so it's quite good with the Divining Rod. Because when you can cast Divining Rod, this is already a 5/5. And you can sometimes cast this for a much lower cost because of the Shepherd's Horn. Sometimes with a couple of Shepherd's Horn in play, you do get turns where you can play, you can sort of warp in a Shatterglass Mage and hard cast an Amber Monument, giving you 10 power, gaining 6 life, or gaining 12 life. And most aggressive decks cannot deal with that kind of life gain and tempo swing with large units. So this is the deck. It's pretty good. I think this deck is definitely not fine-tuned. The curve is atrocious. But and I'm gonna classify this as a casual deck right now, just because I don't believe I have the best version of it, and I'm still going to continue to experiment and try to come up with a better version. But this will be labeled as a casual deck. So play at your own risk if you want to copy the deck, but it is really, really fun to play. I do have a lot of fun playing this deck, especially when things go very well and you get a warp chain into a Divining Rod into 3 or 4 powerful units. That feeling is great. So I'm going to end the video here and record the gameplay videos separately. As always, thank you very much for watching.